I'm Jeff Scheuer. I'm the founder and CEO of NoRedInk, and in a former life, I taught high school English for 8 years and graded a whole lot of papers. To say a couple words about words, they're the vehicle through which we communicate our truths to the world, and so those who know how to leverage them can advocate for themselves, and those who do not are mute in conversations that affect them. And yet, even though we know this, 75% of students are below proficient nationally in writing. This breaks down a number of ways. We see it on the grammar section of the SAT and the ACT. We see it on the essay sections of a whole number of state and national tests. And what happens on a very individual level is students get feedback on their papers. They have no idea what to do with it. They feel guilty, and then it ends up in the wastebasket. And if you're a teacher, you have about 170 students at the high school level per day. So when I was grading papers all the time, if I spent 15 minutes on every one of my students' papers, that's 43 hours of grading for every draft of every assignment. That is not a way to help kids get better. It is a way to create a lot of overwhelmed teachers who don't have the bandwidth to actually make the difference that they want. So as I said, this shows up in a number of assessments. There are a lot of math programs out there that work very hard and do a great job helping kids improve. But when you look at English and you look at the percentage of time that districts actually invest and spend in helping kids get better at writing, it does not match the percentage of Common Core standards that are allocated toward that end. Instead, what we see is a lot of test prep, a lot of multiple choice. And if we actually want to help kids get better, we need to put more focus on engaging them from the get-go, making the feedback personalized, scaffolding, all the things that teachers talk about all the time and that many of you have referenced in other presentations, applying that to writing. So I started NoRedInk in 2012 to address this problem. And among other things, it hinges on the premise that kids learn best in their immediate social context. So we take students' personal interests, their friends, all the things that they care about, and we generate curriculum from that. We started out helping students with grammar, usage, mechanics, and style, and the last couple of years we've spent a lot of time helping students with organizational development, with ideas, defending their claims with evidence, giving and using feedback. I'm going to take you through one specific learning path here to show you how that works. As a teacher, I may want kids to get better at active-passive voice, let's say, and so I may select a part for them to work on. I can give a planning diagnostic where very quickly I can see some data on what areas kids need help on, who's struggling, who's proficient, so that I can give follow-up assignments on that. And of course, a big part of data and platforms like this is to leverage learnings and get them quickly to teachers. In any one learning path, this one is on building and varying sentence structure. They're composed of a number of topics, and so we design backwards from the more complex skill all the way to something very simple and concrete, like comma usage or like using conjunctions. And even at that very superficial level, you'll notice this is not multiple choice. So students can drag commas around, they can click to change punctuation, they can throw out what they don't need, they can capitalize and uncapitalize words. This is supposed to be an authentic assessment of what kids know and don't. If they need help, we'll give them hints. We have various ways to remediate depending on what the issue is. And if students are really having trouble getting it, we'll show them a little mini lesson and then generate another question with the same programmatic substructure, but different content. Man, I miss Michelle Obama to help them get better. Sometimes students are editing text. Sometimes they're rearranging the order of words. They're cutting out fluff. This is a sentence about Justin Timberlake and some songs. Sometimes we're giving kids nonfiction paragraphs or even passages so that they can mimic a format that they may see in a standardized test. And any problem that a kid is having trouble with, he can simply click on that issue after he needs some support, again, get a lesson, and then drill down to another question that addresses that same area. And then, of course, he can zoom out to the bigger picture. From the assessment end, teachers can, of course, see how students are progressing real time, as all programs like ours are able to do. They can go to a post-test to actually see the percentage that kids have gained since their initial diagnostic and see subsequent areas for remediation. On top of that practice engine sits a writing platform. And the way that works is as kids are practicing specific skills, they're submitting their own writing. They are doing self-review and peer review of other people's work, and then we're giving them a methodology for revising their own work. They can use the process of metacognition to create better product. We work with schools and districts, of course, to show them how their students are improving. We're now used in 1 of 2 school districts in the country. Kids answer hundreds of millions of questions every month, including many of the biggest districts in the nation. We've performed a bunch of effectiveness studies over the years. If you want to go to our website to read about them, you're welcome to. 36% of students in this assessment, which was, this was about 8,000 students we were looking at, grew by at least 2 grade levels on the MAP language usage test. We've received a lot of press over the years. I was very, very lucky to be kind of discovered as an English teacher and build a company out of that many years later. In addition to all the K-12 students that are struggling, of course, there are a billion people out there trying to learn English in other countries, and so once we feel like we're doing a decent job with the US, then we can think about those places. And I think the thought I'll leave you with is that if we really care about writing, if we really care about people's ability to communicate effectively and concisely and persuasively, then it behooves us to look carefully at how much time we're devoting in schools and districts to actually helping students build the skills to get their points across. Thank you very much.